Stocks flushing on reports of Oracle losing $100 million on Nvidia Blackwell chips. It's an October crash coming. Let's get into it here. It is Tuesday, October 7th, 2025. If you liked the video, maybe give it a like, maybe comment your thoughts. Let me know what's more off base. Oracle losing $100 million on those chips. Oracle saying it's off base, the report, or is there 70x revenue projections over the next 4 years more off base? Let me know in the comments there. Also, come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trade alerts, analysis, and live day trading, and a couple of good day trades here today too. Then we still got that sale going. Take advantage of it. 2 weeks left on that. Actually, only a week and a half. But anyway, let's get into it here today. So markets, a little bit of a dump, right? We've had a little flush going on. Reminiscent of, to me anyway, and again, I've kind of been pointing out this kind of pattern here, and not to like worship RSI over and over, but because I don't, but it's very similar in the sense that we had that very steep divergence here, right, from price on that August breakout, and it just needed to base through that, right? It just didn't, we had a good flush there, and then it was too quick up to new highs. And fairly steep divergence here too on the cash S&P. And I talked about this, I said just because bears ran out of time with not selling this market by last Friday, which is where I needed to see bear damage in order to give the bears any sort of a bias here. I didn't say it, I said specifically that doesn't mean we're just going to power up to 7,000 or anything, right? We could still base here, and I wouldn't be surprised to see more of a dip. So that's kind of what happened here. It was reminiscent of that. A couple of things though I will point out. What have we been talking about really a lot lately? Right, where is this high coming from? Right, if this is a high here, and I mean we closed below yesterday's low by a little bit there, as did the triple Qs. And they actually engulfed, and we did make a new high this morning, and then we closed below the prior day low. Look at here, right? The previous high, we'll just call it 6,700, and then today's high was 54 points, right? 67.54. Each of these higher highs has been way more than 50 points, right? Except for this one, and the reason for that is I think that it's more like we're going off of this high, right? Because this is the one that failed here, but each of these, let's put it this way, each of these hits of this trend line, right, they've resulted in pretty good rallies off of that. If we come back to it here after only making a 50-point new high, that trend line will be weak. I've said that repeatedly. So that is something to keep in mind here. Now, with that said too, I don't think the flows are very conducive for bears here. That doesn't mean we can't dip. It doesn't mean we can't pull back. It doesn't mean we can't even go down. But I just think that window closed up way too quickly and without them doing anything to it. So we could dip here, but I don't think it's going to be, you're going to have to break through the 20 moving average with a lot of force, and you're going to have to do it by another standard deviation in order to kick any sort of downside down. And that's going to be harder to do the closer and closer we get to OPEX. So that is, that's kind of where I'm at here. So I would say, right now, I think the market, I think will generally be supported here. I did talk about the VIX maybe trying to perk up a little bit. By the way, realized vol is very low compared to implied vol right now, which means if we get any positive news or the government reopens, I think you'll see a massive vol crush. That said, we got to look at the other side of it. And what else have I been saying here for the last several days, last week? What needs to happen, right? Going once, going twice. SMH. That is a legit evening star. Would prefer a lot more volume behind it, but it's legit. And finished down 2%, and it did not, it closed at the lows of the day, right? Nvidia, it got a bounce at the last second, but it closed basically at the lows. Broadcom, that came back up. AMD, that came down again. That's still up a lot, obviously. Intel, that was up, it came off the highs, but it was really these the supply, the materials ones, AMAT, down 5.5, KLA down 5, Qualcomm down 2, TXN down 2.62, ASML down 4%, right? Taiwan Semi down 2.77, you know, nasty reversal there. So, and those are the ones that have been leading, right? Micron, this one just been powerhousing up, you know, down almost 3% on the day. So you need to see a little bit more, I think, but that would be, you know, something to pay attention to, right? I've been saying this several times, like the semis need to die for this to, you know, this to actually see any sort of downside here. So that is something to respect. I just don't think that we're going to get any sort of like, you know, massive downside here. I just don't really see it right now. And if it is, I think it'll be pretty brief. So that's kind of where we're at. Low of the day too, 6,700. This was a really nice day trade for us. Actually, had to leg into this, but 67 was very nice as the low. And it lined up perfectly with 603 QQQ, which I did tweet about this as well. But right there, I mean, that was your LG1 for the Qs, and it held. So it's pretty simple. Sometimes they make it easy, sometimes they don't. Interesting, look at that pattern on the Qs, like the same two-step there. And you can see here as well, we'll be watching this tomorrow. You know, short term on the Qs, you know, a little bit of a break there on that hourly. Speaking of SPY, you know, watch this level for a possible back test tomorrow if we start to move back up. Yes, this is going to be messy, but right there as well to that white line. And we held this larger structure. I don't normally show these day trading lines on here, but just some short-term levels to keep an eye on tomorrow. Anyway, IWM backing off, so back below 245 again. Actually, before I move on to that, we'll talk semis again. Watch NVDA here, down 50 cents. It's not like it had a bloodbath on that news, but it did finish at the lows, basically at the lows of the day. Watch 180, right? Just if we close the week below 180, that's, to me, a failed breakout. And you could argue that you got a Wyckoff uptrend after distribution. If that closes below on the weekly, that would be a big negative. The reason I thought of that is because the IWM here closing back below that prior high. So just watch that. Diamond here down 87 cents. We mentioned SMH, there's the SOX. IGV, that did come off the lows. So again, Orcl, you know, it held, right? It held. But, you know, definitely a little bit of a shot there. Dow Transport's on the weaker side. Maybe a fake out here. Going off IYT, though, still really strong on the weekly. So zoom out on those patterns here. They do take time sometimes. I'm just going to show the bonds here. I don't want to flip over. So, yeah, ZT up a little bit. We actually, on the long end, we had a TMF play again. That's 2 days in a row on this. And holding a runner that's nicely in the money. And again, ZB back above that trend line. Beautiful reclaim there. So bonds catching a bid. TLT, this can go to 89.50 this week. I don't know if it's going to go much past that. XHB, again, glad I avoided this one. Sometimes patience pays off. And yeah, outside move there. Now it's still got the rest of the week to recover. And you're coming into a lot of these moving averages on the weekly are all converging, and it's converging right near a breakout area. So XHB, a watch reactions in this 105-ish area here on that, and then IYR dipping too. Maybe a little head and shoulder there on the hourly, 4-hour-ish. But overall, I think that's just kind of, you know, you got the weekly inside bar too. So I'll give it the bias on that for now, unless that fails. XLF was down earlier, but it managed to pop back up. So closing up by 7 cents. KRE was down, you know, 46 cents. Again, weekly chart though, I mean, that's a bull inside bar, really no other way to say it. So if that goes up, I mean, you can't really get bearish at all. Broker dealers, again, little failed breakout type look there. Um, so we'll see. I mean, they haven't gone anywhere in like 3 months. Oil, big round trip here, right? Look at this. Somebody asked me about this morning. He's like, Aaron, could we? Oil looks like a buyer was like, I don't know about that. I should have just bought it. It went all the way up to the highs of the day. It was right here too. It was right there. It would have been a good one. But yeah, you know, it's back up. I was hoping for more of a flush. I'm kind of neutral to positive on it right now. XLE, look at this. Big dip to the 50 and closed green. Is this XLE? Or is this a tech stock that is posing as XLE, right? XLE is not supposed to do that. OIH still looking good too. Dollar following through to the upside. So up 0.5%. And I think this has got massive legs if we get a macro trigger. I'll just leave it at that. Gold, yeah, 4,000. You know, what else can you say? It's at 4,000. Silver backed off, down 1.7. I still have a runner. And SLV there. And then platinum, a little flat day there. Palladium still pushing through new highs. You know, this is one I missed here too. I was hoping for another day or two of consolidation, but good punch there. It might back off tomorrow. We'll see. And then flipping over here to Bitcoin. Again, nice little dip. It came off the lows though. You know, pretty much across the board. Again, just refer. I know these daily candles, like they look ugly sometimes, but you know, that's what I was saying with IYT, you know. Yeah, it looks nasty, but like just look at the weekly. Weekly. No problems just yet. Sol too. I mean, scam. But yeah, little dip there, you know, across the board in most risk assets. This could be a situation too where, you know, you have these stocks that are just so in the stratosphere, and it's like, even if there's a report, even if it does get knocked down and Orcl says like it's not that big a deal, it still gets people thinking like maybe we should take profits on some of these, you know, maybe they're just a little bit overdone, right? So you can get to these situations, but right now I just see like dealer flow just being really supportive. Now again, we talked about QQQ 590 early in the week. We got to break 600 to make that a thing though. So there's a lot of, you know, there's a lot of support in here before that happens. I bet you the fib lines up right there at 599. So yeah, you can tell 50% retrace. If that gets tested and breaks, then we can open up to the downside a little bit more. But right now, I would just, you know, the closer we get to OPEX, the harder that's going to be to do. So anyway, we'll wrap it up here. Again, you guys take care. Don't forget to come find me on carnivoretrades.com. We'll see you guys all tomorrow.